Hi, my name is Brandon Murphy. I went to Alpine Valley School for about 10 years, from 4th grade to ultimately graduating when I was 18. So before I came to AVS, I was in a traditional public school. I lived in Arvada, and by the time I got to about 4th grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD and had a hard time paying attention in class and wanted to roam around and didn't have the desire to be learning hardcore math. I mean, for whatever that means for a 4th grader. And the main thing that changed in my life was my dad identified that I no longer loved reading on my own. And that really struck a chord with him and started to research alternative forms of learning so that I wasn't sacrificing the thing that I loved to read the things that I don't want to read. And that's how we discovered the Sudbury Model. Being diagnosed with ADHD at such a young age before I came to AVS already gave me the preconceived notion that I was not as abled as the rest of my peers, which did weird things to the way that I thought about myself at that age. So I kind of had at least a part of my identity thought that I wasn't as good as all the other kids in the grade, and that was weird to deal with. And then when I came to AVS, I was treated like an equal, not just in the sense of like compare one 7-year-old boy girl Brandon to another 7-year-old boy girl, but to the staff. Larry would talk to me like I was a grown up, and that gave me the self-confidence I needed to realize that perhaps my attention deficit disorder was really just me trying to figure out what I wanted to do and not having a high tolerance for things that I don't want to do. When I first came to AVS, I do remember my first day. I think I had a pretty good amount of culture shock because I was so used to being told when to do everything, and being able to just kind of exist was weird. And then I was like, oh, what do I want to do? So I picked up playing pool with Larry a bunch, and that kind of was the catalyst for my socialization in school. So I spent all of my time meeting the people around the pool table, making friends. That's the day that I met my still very close best friends, Ellie and Christy. And yeah, it was super weird to go from like, what are we doing this hour to this hour to, oh, just go wander around and meet people. And I guess that kind of sparked the thing that I'm so good at now, which is I love meeting people. Like, it's my career. It's what I love to do. So I got to do that from that day on for 10 years. I just got to go hang out with people and do whatever I wanted all day. It was a profound experience to be told at 7 years old, you can do what you want today. Up to you. What do you want to do? Yeah, I did a lot of introspection into what it is that I want, and that manifested in really interesting ways. So it was a cool place to test out what do I want and what do I think that I want based on the stimuli around me. Meaning, like, there were times where I was like, oh, I think I want to get really good at multiplication, and then one of the staff members, Bruce, who is really good at math, he's a math teacher. This is something he can do. Would really test me on like, okay, great, let's do that. I'll be here at this exact time, and here's the process of doing so. And I eventually realized I was like, nope, I'm having to sacrifice my time playing the piano, which I love doing with Bruce, to do math. And it was just there was 10 years of me testing that. What do I want to do, and what do I think that I need to be doing? What are my aunts telling me I need to learn multiplication, or do I really just want to play the piano? I got to, for I guess 3 or 4 years, be the judicial committee chair, and I ran with my best friends and really like putting my roots deep into the community and being I don't know, someone that can actually do something for all the people that we care about around us was a huge part of my tenure here. Yeah, at Alpine Valley, I really discovered that um, my superpower is if you put me in a room with anybody, I can make friends with those people. I get to hang out. I love it. It's where I'm thriving. And I got to do that for about 10 years. So that that kind of looked like whether it was when I was young and playing tag, because I was there's so much social interaction and dynamics that go into or getting enough people to even play tag. And then like someone gets mad, people quit, what game are we going to play? That was something I would do every single day for a decade. And I think it goes missed because it's like now in my job, I get people around to do things about the things that I care about. And I got to practice that for 10 years growing up from 7 to 18 at AVS. Something that was difficult when I was younger would be it was difficult to hear from people that like my peers, like the people that I was like, oh, these are my new best friends, Ellie and Christy. And then if I broke a rule, having them on the other end of that saying, hey, what's going on here was really difficult to get used to because I was so used to being like, oh, if I just make the teacher happy, I'm fine. So that was hard at first, and then became kind of the beauty of I got to be on the other end of that. Other things that were difficult at my time at AVS were coping with the culture around education outside of the Sudbury model was very difficult because I have a big family and there's a lot of everyone's, they're on the same path. So when my family was like, oh, hey, our son's going to this school where he just gets to do what he wants all day, I had to deal with a lot of questions that were really difficult, especially at that age. The Sudbury model for me it's like one of the so I'm 26 and at this time of my life I'm learning what am I really good at out in the world outside of this, but for a long time the one thing that I knew was Sudbury because I talked to anybody about it and you put me in front of whoever and I was confident I could navigate that kind of conversation because I put my 10,000 hours into I put 10 years into what it means to be a part of a Sudbury school. So as I got older, I got wiser and I was fine because it was like it got to the point where I really knew how to explain the intricacies of how giving a kid freedom expresses into their natural ability to find their own path and use their own resources to if I needed to know long division, I'll figure it out. But I've never been asked to do any of that. So that's not really on the forefront of my focus. So that's how I did it then. When I was a kid, I think my parents had to insulate me from these people. That was a boundary that we learned was very important growing up because it would be like, yeah, that's great. You can ask him questions, but you can't make him feel bad about his experience. When I was about 16, I still, and as I mentioned before, I had a lot of existential question around, it seems to be working for us, but does it work for me? Is the Sudbury model setting me up properly so that when I want to go out into the real world, I'll be effective? And looking back on it, it seems silly, but there was a lot of doubt in my ability to perform in a classroom setting. I hadn't been in it for 10 years. So I'm like, oh, is that something I even want to do? And if I do want to do it, can I do it? And a lot of that questioning was external. It was not internal. I was like other people really grilling me on like, do you want to go to college? If you want to go to college, do you know how to do that? And I was like, I don't know. So I made the decision to leave AVS and try. I went to Jefferson County Open School, which is a publicly funded school, but they have a little bit of a different approach. So I didn't, go straight into like advanced hardcore curriculum, but I was like, do I know how to operate in a classroom setting, having taken 10 years off the normal curriculum? And what I learned within the first 4 to 6 months was it's not as hard as I thought. I just kind of dug into the resources I used online. I talked to my teachers and I was like, oh, okay, I can just kind of gather from context what I need to know here and backdate some of my knowledge. And I was on it like quick. I became very good at doing the whole classroom thing. I got really good at algebra. There was a point where my math teacher would let me teach the class when he had to go deal with something. So that gave me a lot of confidence in that. And then I was quickly like, okay, I need to get back to AVS so that I can graduate and get the degree that I was, chasing since I was 7 and be a part of my community. So after I graduated AVS, I did a lot of soul searching on what does Brandon look like in the professional world? Tried a couple jobs. I worked with one of my fellow graduates, just doing like labor jobs, delivering parts. And then ultimately, after really kind of digging in deep, discovered that I want to work with people. So when I was about 20, I joined the tech market and got to use my super friend powers to go meet people and bring them to a little cybersecurity company here in Colorado and kind of hone my professional skills around technology. So that was like my first thing outside of AVS, and it also gave me the opportunity to travel all over the world. So I worked remote for, I guess almost 4.5 years, and I got to go to Australia and Thailand. I went to Australia twice, Bali, Ireland, Canada, Hawaii, a bunch, and just got to do a lot of getting to know myself, professional development, and Aaron and the school and that kind of path just shot me onto the trajectory I'm on now, which is the startup community in Denver. I work with 2 different tech companies that I really believe in, and they believe in me enough to bring people around the causes that they have. So I would say the most important thing I learned at AVS would be I learned I could trust myself in guiding where I want to go in all senses. I mean, to a 7-year-old, it was like, what are you going to do today? To 26-year-old Brandon, what am I going to do with my life? What am I doing with my career? Where am I going to live? All these things that are really stressful for me, AVS taught me that since I was 7, I've had everyone around me has given me full confidence that I know how to make these decisions, and I don't need to doubt myself. So I think that's the core thing that I learned here at AVS, was that I can trust myself to go where I need to go, essentially.